So picture this. It is maybe 7:15 in the morning.
Okay.
The kitchen is totally quiet.
Right. Nice and peaceful.
Yeah, exactly. But then you've got a single piece of bread that just stays in the toaster, I don't know, maybe 5 seconds too long.
Oh, no.
Right? It pops up and it's slightly blackened, just carbonized around the edges.
A tragedy.
Literally a morning tragedy. And somehow that single piece of burnt toast, well, it is going to set the stage for an absolute existential crisis.
Wow.
A massive internal war, and honestly, a profound realization about the survival of a marriage, which is wild because you wouldn't normally think a breakfast carb has that kind of power.
No, usually it just means it needs some butter.
Right. But today, we're looking at the anatomy of a morning that gets totally ruined by trivialities, and how those little trivialities stack up to build what an anonymous blogger so brilliantly calls the architecture of an internal storm.
That is such a striking title.
It really is. So we are doing a deep dive today, unpacking this fascinating, totally anonymous piece of writing that tackles the gravity of chronic negativity,
Yeah.
the friction it causes in our most intimate relationships, and that really tricky search for a middle ground, between wallowing in misery and forcing yourself to be completely, fake happy.
And the stakes here, they feel incredibly small on the surface.
Very small.
We're talking about minor inconveniences,
Yeah.
traffic, daily annoyances, a piece of toast. But the psychological undercurrents are just massive.
Totally.
We're looking at the foundational ways that we construct our reality, like how we interpret the world around us.
Right.
And ultimately how we subject the people we love most to that customized reality we've built.
To our own little storm.
Exactly. So the goal of our deep dive today is to take this raw, unfiltered confession from this author and really examine the mental mechanics at play.
And what immediately grabs you, I think, about her confession is how she doesn't try to make herself look good, at all.
Oh, she is painfully honest.
Yeah. She sets the scene right in the kitchen, and the self-awareness is just brutal. She straight up admits that her husband tells her she's negative about everything.
Which is a tough thing to hear.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And she writes that every tiny thing has a cloud over it when she talks.
Mm.
And the phrase she uses, which I just can't get over, is that she says she turns a normal breakfast into a sad little meeting.
A sad little meeting. The word choice there is so deliberate.
It really is.
And it's so revealing because think about what a meeting is. It's an obligation.
Right. Nobody wants to go to a meeting at 7 in the morning.
Exactly. It's transactional. It implies an agenda, usually one involving problems that need to be solved or grievances that need to be aired.
Yes, reviewing the minutes from yesterday's problems.
Right. So by turning breakfast into a sad little meeting, she is completely stripping away the intimacy of a shared morning.
Wow, yeah.
The kitchen table is no longer a place of connection, It becomes a boardroom of complaints where her partner is just forced to sit and review the minutes of her misery.
That's exactly the vibe, because she gives us the exact inciting incident for this specific meeting. The toast burns. That is the sum total of the tragedy.
The great catastrophe.
Right. And her immediate reaction, spoken out loud to the room, is, well, she says, of course, even bread got attitude now.
Which is objectively a funny line.
It is.
Yeah.
In isolation, if you just read that as a tweet, it's hilarious. But then we see her husband's reaction. He doesn't laugh.
No.
He doesn't argue. She says he just gave her this deeply tired look. And this is where the internal storm really reveals itself. Because she laughs at her own joke, but internally she notes that she secretly hates that he noticed.
That is the crux of it right there.
Yeah, she says, I don't wake up planning to be like this.
Okay, let's look closely at the psychology of what is happening in that split second.
Okay, let's unpack this.
When she anthropomorphizes the bread, giving it an attitude, she is engaging in a very specific type of displacement.
Okay, what does that mean exactly?
Well, we often use inanimate objects as scapegoats when we are experiencing generalized free-floating anxiety.
Like the toaster's out to get me.
Exactly. The toast doesn't have an attitude, obviously. But by framing it that way, she instantaneously positions herself as the victim of a hostile universe.
Oh, wow.
The environment is actively conspiring against her down to the baked goods.
That makes so much sense.
Right. But the real friction comes from that secondary reaction you mentioned. The part of her that watches herself make the joke and just winces.
Right. It's like she's a passenger in her own brain. The words come out, and a millisecond later, the rational part of her catches up and just cringes at the exhaust fumes she just pumped into the kitchen.
That's a great way to put it.
I always think of this creeping negativity like a leaky faucet in a house.
Oh, I like that.
Because you don't buy a house with the intention of ruining the hardwood floors. You don't wake up in the morning and say, hey, I think I'll flood the kitchen today.
Right, nobody does that.
But there's a drip, and then another drip.
Yeah.
And you ignore it, or you make a cynical joke about the plumbing.
Just a little joke about the pipes having an attitude.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But drip by drip, comment by comment, the moisture seeps into the drywall, the foundation starts to rot, and suddenly the entire atmosphere of the house is just damp and cold.
And the husband's tired look is the exact moment she realizes the floor is warped.
Oh, that's sad.
He is the collateral damage of the leaky faucet. What we're observing in her admission of hating that he noticed is a profound clash. It's a clash between her automatic defense mechanism, which is cynicism, and her genuine desire for connection.
Because she loves him. She doesn't want to exhaust him.
Right. She recognizes that her reflex to complain is involuntary. It's a sort of emotional sneeze.
An emotional seize. I love that.
But seeing his exhaustion strips away the humor of the attitude bred. She feels the weight of her own emotional leakage.
Which is such an uncomfortable place to be. I mean, if you're listening to this right now on your commute or while you're doing the dishes, think about a recent morning where something just mildly annoying happened.
Like a stub toe.
Yeah, stub toe.
Yeah.
Or you couldn't find your keys. Did you use that minor glitch as a weapon?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Did you use it to retroactively justify a bad mood that was already sitting there, just waiting for permission to take over the day?
Because that feeling is universal.
It really is. Because catching yourself in the act of being awful is so uncomfortable. We usually don't want to sit with it. We want to justify it.
And that discomfort demands a resolution. When we experience that kind of internal friction, knowing our reaction was disproportionate, but not wanting to admit fault, our brains immediately pivot.
Pivot to what?
To information gathering mode. We start actively scanning the environment for data that proves our bad mood is actually the correct logical response to reality.
Oh, wow. So we go out looking for evidence to prove we have a right to be mad.
Precisely.
And man, the modern world is more than happy to provide that data.
Oh, it certainly is.
This is where her internal storm leaves the kitchen and hits the streets. Because the tension from that breakfast doesn't just evaporate, right?
No, it goes with her.
She goes outside, and immediately she is met with a barrage of evidence that the world is, in fact, terrible.
Right, the universe delivers.
It really does. She walks out, and someone is aggressively yelling on their phone.
Classic city morning.
So she goes to the bus stop, and the bus is late. She sees a stranger crying near a shop. She eventually goes home and turns on the news, which is predictably filled with bad stuff and people doing weird, cruel things.
Just a heavy day.
Yeah. And this entire sequence culminates in her central defense attorney argument for her own pessimism. She asks this question in the post. How could anyone be positive after that?
It is a masterful construction of an alibi.
An alibi.
Yes. If we look at this through the lens of evolutionary biology, our brains are hardwired with a negativity bias.
Okay, right.
From a survival standpoint, early humans who paid more attention to threats, the rustling in the bushes, the dangerous weather, they survived longer than those who were just admiring the sunset.
Right, the guy looking at the sunset gets eaten by a tiger.
Exactly. So our brains are like Velcro for negative experiences and Teflon for positive ones.
Velcro for negative, Teflon for positive. That's so true.
What she's experiencing on that walk is her ancient survival mechanism being hijacked by modern, non-lethal stressors.
But hold on. I'm struggling with this framing a little bit.
Okay, tell me.
We're talking about this like she's inventing problems or letting some ancient monkey brain glitch trick her. But look at what she's actually seeing.
There's a late bus?
Yes. The bus really is late. People really are cruel. The news is objectively horrifying most days. She didn't hallucinate the crying stranger or the bills on her counter.
No, she didn't.
So is it fair to call this an alibi? Or is she just refusing to participate in a collective delusion? It feels almost like gaslighting to tell her that her perfectly accurate observations of a messy world are just a defense mechanism.
That is the exact trap of the pessimistic worldview, and it is incredibly compelling because it relies on objective facts.
Because she's not wrong.
You are entirely correct. Her observations are factually undeniable. The late bus is real, the bills are real. But the cognitive distortion lies not in her observation, but in her fixation and her extrapolation.
Okay, break that down for me.
She is taking isolated factual data points of misery and using them to draw a trend line that covers her entire existence. It is the difference between acknowledging a trash can in a park and concluding that the entire park is a landfill.
Oh, man. Okay, the trash can analogy makes so much sense. It's like she's wearing heavily tinted sunglasses, right?
Exactly.
If you put on dark gray lenses, the physics of light entering your eye physically change.
Right.
You can walk through a botanical garden in full bloom, but the lenses filter out all the vibrant reds and yellows.
Uh-huh.
The only thing your brain registers is the gray concrete path and that overflowing trash can at the exit.
Because the lenses won't allow the flowers in?
The lenses literally won't allow it.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating is how she views the people who aren't wearing those sunglasses. She describes optimistic people as having a magic brain.
A magic brain, yes.
Like they magically see flowers and cute clouds.
What's fascinating here is that the term magic brain is doing a lot of heavy lifting for her ego. By labeling optimism as magic, she categorizes it as supernatural, childish, and fundamentally unreal.
Like it's a fairy tale.
Exactly. She isn't viewing these people as resilient or as individuals who have practiced emotional regulation. She sees them as naive.
Oh, that's a huge distinction.
It is a classic false dilemma. You are either a hardened, intelligent realist who sees the misery, or you are a foolish, magical thinker living in an illusion.
It's an armor of intelligence.
Yes, exactly.
If I am pessimistic, I'm smart. If I expect the worst, I can never be caught off guard. She literally says in the post, it sounds dramatic, but it is what my head do.
It is what my head do.
Yeah. It's almost a total surrender to her own neurochemistry.
It is a surrender, but a highly protective one.
Protective of what?
Of her vulnerability. If she concedes that this is just what my head does, she absolves herself of the responsibility to change it.
Oh, wow. So it's not her fault.
Right. The logic is, the world is objectively bad, my brain is wired to see the bad, therefore my behavior at the breakfast table is justified. It protects her from the vulnerability of hoping for a good day and being disappointed.
Right, because disappointment hurts more than just expecting the worst from the get-go.
Exactly. But this airtight legal case she has built for her own misery only works when she is alone.
Oh, right, because she's married.
Yes. The moment she brings this philosophy back into the dynamic of her marriage, the whole structure starts to buckle under the weight of human connection.
Because you can't live in an airtight bunker with another person and constantly pump the room full of exhaust.
You really can't.
Which brings us back to the husband. I really feel for this guy.
He has a tough job.
He emerges as this deeply reluctant anchor trying to hold a ship steady in a hurricane. She clarifies that he isn't some villain telling her to smile.
Right. He's not being toxic about it.
No, he actually tries to de-escalate. He makes jokes. He gently tells her, babe, not everything is the end of the world.
Which is an incredibly measured, compassionate response.
It really is.
He is performing a tremendous amount of emotional triage there.
Emotional triage.
Yes. Because he isn't invalidating the fact that the toast burned or the bus was late. He is simply trying to adjust the scale of the catastrophe.
Right, like, yes, the toast is burnt, but no, the house isn't on fire.
Precisely. He is attempting to pull her out of the macro doom and bring her back to the micro reality of their shared life.
But her internal reaction to this gentle pushback is where the real breakthrough of the blog post happens.
This is the turning point.
She wrestles with what he's asking of her. Initially, she feels like he's demanding that she pretend the world isn't messy.
Which triggers that defense mechanism again.
Right. But then she pauses. She analyzes her own broadcast.
Yeah.
And she writes this realization that just hits like a ton of bricks.
What does she say?
She says, I guess both can be true. Like the world can suck, and also I can be annoying about saying it every 5 seconds.
Both can be true. The ability to hold those two conflicting ideas simultaneously is a massive leap in cognitive maturity.
It really feels like a light bulb moment.
It's a core concept in dialectical behavior therapy, actually. Yes. It's the idea that two seemingly opposite things can be valid at the exact same time. The world is objectively flawed and full of suffering, that is true.
Right.
And concurrently, her constant verbalization of that suffering is degrading the quality of her life and her marriage. That is also true.
So they don't cancel each other out.
Exactly.
It's the 24-hour news anchor dilemma.
Oh, tell me about that.
Well, if you are an anchor on a cable news network,
Yeah.
you are acutely aware of every tragedy happening across the globe, right?
Because it's your job.
Exactly. You have the facts.
Yeah.
But when you clock out and go home to your family, you don't set up a ticker tape on your forehead.
No, that would be exhausting.
You don't grab a megaphone and broadcast the doom scroll to your partner while they're just trying to watch TV. You possess the negative information, but you choose not to let it dictate the ambient temperature of your living room.
The ambient temperature, that is exactly what is at stake here.
Yeah.
Because the husband's request isn't about censorship. It's about environmental protection.
Environmental protection for the relationship.
Yes. When one partner verbalizes every single negative passing thought, it places an enormous, invisible burden on the other person.
Because they have to hear it all.
The listener has to constantly catch those heavy emotional medicine balls, process them, and try to throw back something light.
Like a joke or a reassurance.
Exactly, just to keep the air breathable. It leads to profound partner burnout.
But let me push on this idea of environmental protection for a second.
Okay.
Isn't a partnership supposed to be the ultimate safe harbor?
Well, ideally, yes.
Right. So if you spend 8 hours a day at work, filtering yourself, smiling at your boss and ignoring the late bus, shouldn't your home be the one place where you can just take the armor off?
I see where you're going.
If she can't complain to her husband about how terrible everything is, who on earth is she supposed to complain to? Doesn't asking her to moderate her broadcast basically mandate that she suffer in silence?
It's a really valid question. But there is a vital distinction between seeking comfort from a storm and dragging the storm inside to tear the roof off your own house.
Oh, okay, that's a good distinction.
Yes, a relationship is a safe space for vulnerability and processing difficult emotions. But what she was doing wasn't processing, it was externalizing.
What's the difference practically?
Processing involves exploring an emotion to understand it or move through it. You're working on it together. Externalizing is just venting the pressure by transferring the stress to someone else.
So she's just dumping it on him so she doesn't have to hold it.
Exactly. Her realization that both can be true is her recognizing that her right to be frustrated does not supersede her partner's right to exist in a peaceful environment.
So she goes from seeing herself as the victim of a bad morning to realizing she is actively victimizing her husband with her reactions.
That is a heavy pivot.
It is a massive pivot. And, it's one thing to have that theoretical epiphany while typing on a laptop alone in your room.
Oh, absolutely.
It is an entirely different beast to actually implement that self-awareness out in the wild when the world starts throwing curveballs at you.
Which is why the subsequent anecdote she shares is so critical to this whole piece.
Yes, the walk.
The theory immediately faces a real-world stress test.
Right. She transitioned straight into this story about a walk they took. She said it was just yesterday.
Very recent.
And the contrast between her new realization and her deeply ingrained habits is just stark.
Because old habits die hard.
They really do.
Yeah.
Almost immediately, the loop of complaints boots up. She's narrating a documentary of urban decay for her husband.
Just pointing out every flaw.
Yeah. She points out the track on the sidewalk. She complains about the loud cars. She gets irritated by some guy staring at them. She even starts complaining about the price of snacks in a convenience store window.
It is a relentless, hyper-vigilant scanning of the environment for threats.
It sounds exhausting.
It is. Her nervous system is stuck in overdrive. She's actively hunting for evidence to feed that negativity bias we talked about.
Right.
But then an anomaly enters her field of vision.
The dog.
Yes, something that completely disrupts the algorithm she's running.
A kid runs past them with a dog. And the way she describes this dog is so universally understood.
How does she say it?
She says it's doing that dumb happy jump thing.
Yes. We all know exactly what she means.
It's that pure, chaotic, unadulterated joy that only an animal can express. Just bouncing for absolutely no reason other than the fact that it is outside and alive.
Pure present moment awareness.
And for a fraction of a second, the heavy tint on her sunglasses slips. The armor cracks.
And what happens?
She confesses to the reader. I almost smiled.
The dog managed to bypass her cognitive defenses. It offered a moment of pure, uncomplicated joy. But the key word in her confession is almost.
Almost, because the defense mechanism retaliates with terrifying speed.
It doesn't want to let the joy in.
Exactly. Before the corners of her mouth can even turn up, before the smile can fully form, she intercepts it.
She shuts it down.
She looks at the bounding happy dog, and she says out loud to her husband, "Watch it step in glass." She stomps out the moment. And she justifies it to the reader by shrugging it off, saying, because, yeah, my mouth just does that.
That phrase, "watch it step in glass," is one of the most efficient, brutal examples of self-sabotage I have ever heard analyzed.
It's so dark.
Brené Brown actually talks extensively about this concept. She calls it foreboding joy.
Foreboding joy. Okay, explain that.
When we experience true, unguarded joy, it is actually the most vulnerable emotion we can feel.
Wait, really? Joy is the most vulnerable.
Yes, because if we allow ourselves to feel it, we open ourselves up to the terror that it will be taken away.
Oh, I see.
For someone conditioned to expect disaster, like our author here, joy feels like a setup.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. I look at that moment like a person who spends hours meticulously building this gorgeous, intricate sandcastle on the beach.
Okay.
They step back, and it's perfect. But they look out at the ocean, and they know the tide is coming.
Right, the water's going to rise.
They know, inevitably, the water will wash the castle away. So instead of just sitting there and enjoying the beauty of the castle for the hour it has left, they panic.
They can't tolerate the waiting.
They can't handle the anticipation of the loss. So they instinctively kick the castle down themselves.
Wow, yes.
They destroy their own creation as a preemptive strike, just so they can control the narrative. If they destroy it, the ocean can't hurt them.
That is brilliant.
Watch it step in glass as her kicking down her own sandcastle.
That perfectly captures the psychological mechanics of foreboding joy.
It's so sad when you think about it.
It is. By imagining the glass, she reasserts control over an unpredictable situation. She drags the dog's joy and her own fleeting happiness back down into the familiar, predictable misery of her constructed reality.
She beats the disappointment to the punch.
Exactly. But the true emotional climax of this anecdote isn't her cynical comment about the glass.
No, it's not.
It is the immediate aftermath.
It's the husband's reaction. She writes, "My husband said nothing, just held my hand, and that made me feel worse somehow."
That detail is so raw.
It really is. But I have to ask, why does that silent handhold shatter her?
Think about the alternative.
Right, like if you look at normal conflict dynamics, if he had stopped walking and snapped at her, if he said, "Why are you so miserable? Why do you always have to ruin a nice moment?" They would have had a massive argument right there on the sidewalk.
A huge fight.
But if he had done that, wouldn't it have been easier for her? Why does the silence hurt more than a fight?
Because a fight is a distraction.
A distraction from what?
From herself. If he had yelled at her, he would have handed her an escape hatch.
Oh, I see.
The focus of the moment would have instantly shifted from her toxic comment to his anger.
She could have been the victim again.
Exactly. She could have become indignant. She could have deflected and said, "You're overreacting. The streets are full of glass. I was just making an observation." An argument allows her to retreat back into the comfortable role of the misunderstood victim.
But the silence gives her nothing to push against. It's like shadow boxing in an empty room.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, precisely. The silence acts as a flawless, unyielding mirror.
A mirror.
By refusing to engage in combat, by simply offering a gesture of quiet, steady support, holding her hand, he completely removes her ability to deflect.
He absorbs it.
He absorbs the toxicity of her remark without reflecting it back as aggression. And in that quiet vacuum he creates, the sheer cruelty and needlessness of her own words echo loudly in her own ears.
It has nowhere else to go but back to her.
Right. The handhold isn't a passive-aggressive attack. It's a profound act of grace.
Wow.
And when we are acting out of our deepest insecurities and bitterness, receiving unearned grace from a partner is excruciating.
Because you know you don't deserve it in that moment.
It highlights the vast chasm between his patience and her hostility.
The mirror of silence, that is so powerful.
Yeah.
It faces her to look at exactly what she is projecting into the world.
And it leads her to ask a very important question.
Yes. She asks the reader this incredibly heavy, introspective question. She asks, do you ever catch yourself being the bad weather in the room?
The bad weather. It is the ultimate moment of accountability.
It really is.
Because up until this point, the entire narrative has been built on externalizing blame.
Right. The toaster ruined the morning.
The bus ruined the commute.
The news ruined the evening.
The trash ruined the walk.
But standing on the sidewalk, holding her husband's hand after wishing harm on a happy dog, the illusion shatters.
She realizes she isn't just reacting to the storm. She is the storm.
It's a devastating image.
It really is.
You walk into a living room or a kitchen or an office, and you don't just bring an umbrella. You bring the low-pressure system, you bring the lightning, the thunder, the freezing rain, and you completely soak everyone around you who is just trying to enjoy a quiet afternoon.
That's a perfect way to visualize it.
It is a moment of profound, painful self-awareness for her.
Yeah.
But what elevates this from just a sad journal entry to something genuinely instructive is what she does next.
Right. She doesn't stop there.
No, she doesn't just wallow in the guilt of being the bad weather. She immediately pivots to pragmatism.
This is where the theoretical philosophy becomes actionable.
Okay, tell me about that.
In the final section of her post, she shifts from diagnosing her cognitive distortions to actually experimenting with a methodology to fix them.
And she starts by establishing a very clear boundary regarding what the solution is not.
Yes, very important.
She firmly and explicitly rejects the idea of adopting a fake happy persona.
All right, she's not going to just paste on a smile.
She says she refuses to become one of those people who preaches good vibes, only while, as she puts it, everything is clearly burning in small, normal ways.
I cannot overstate how important that distinction is from a psychological standpoint.
Really? Why is that so crucial?
The goal of emotional regulation is not toxic positivity. Good vibes only is just as delusional and rigid as her previous bad vibes only stance.
Oh, because it's still a distortion.
Exactly. It is simply the inverse distortion. If your kitchen is literally on fire, chanting good vibes only will not extinguish the flames.
It's just ignoring the fire.
It's a form of experiential avoidance. She recognizes that the world is still deeply flawed, the bus will still be late, and she refuses to insult her own intelligence by pretending otherwise.
So if the solution isn't slapping a smiley face sticker over a broken engine, what is it?
She proposes something very practical.
Yeah, a purely mechanical behavioral fix. She writes that maybe she just needs to learn to pause before talking.
Just a simple pause.
She needs to ask herself if a thought genuinely needs to be spoken out loud, or, and this is hands down my favorite concept in the entire piece, she could just keep it in her dumb little brain jar.
The dumb little brain jar. It is a phenomenal, highly accessible visualization technique for cognitive behavioral therapy.
When I read that, I immediately equated it to a spam folder for your own consciousness.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, because when an email algorithm detects a piece of spam, you pretend the email doesn't exist. The spam is real, it was sent.
Right.
But the filter intercepts it and routes it to a designated isolated folder.
Out of sight.
Why? So it doesn't ping your main inbox, notify your smartwatch, interrupt your workflow, and demand your immediate attention.
It manages the flow of information.
Exactly. The thoughts in the brain jar are exactly like that. The thought, watch its step in glass occurs.
Right.
It exists. It isn't deleted. But she consciously routes it to the jar so it doesn't ping the external environment and ruin the walk for her husband.
If we take that spam folder idea a step further, think about how the filter actually works.
Okay.
It uses an algorithm to recognize useless, malicious, or repetitive patterns.
Right.
The brain jar is her consciously developing a mental algorithm. The old habit, the old neural pathway, was to immediately forward every piece of spam to her husband's inbox.
Which was overwhelming him.
The new habit is impulse control. She acknowledges the thought, evaluates it, recognizes it serves no positive function, and compartmentalizes it.
It is a practice of strict vocal restraint.
Yes.
And she pairs this new spam filter with a quota system.
The ratio.
Yeah, she suggests a new rule of balance.
Right.
For every bad thing she says out loud, she has to say one okay thing.
A 1-to-1 ratio.
And she makes a very careful caveat, noting that she doesn't view this as a punishment, but just as a way to force balance.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to explore the reality of this with you.
Sure.
Is a rigid 1-to-1 ratio actually sustainable for a human being? Because constantly counting your own comments sounds exhausting.
It does.
Doesn't setting up a strict mathematical rule just create a trap where she's going to feel like a massive failure the first time she complains twice in a row?
If it were taken as a literal, lifelong mathematical absolute, yes, it would lead to obsessive-compulsive tracking and inevitable failure.
So it's not a forever rule.
But within the context of behavioral change, I don't read it as a permanent ledger she has to balance every night. I interpret it as a set of cognitive training wheels.
Oh, training wheels, like physically forcing the balance until the muscle memory takes over.
Exactly. Let's look at the neuroplasticity of this.
Okay.
Think of her brain like a sled on a snow-covered hill.
A sled, got it.
For years, every time she has experienced friction, she has taken the sled down the exact same cynical path.
Right.
Over time, that path becomes a deep, slick groove in the snow. It takes zero effort to go down it. In fact, the sled naturally pulls in that direction.
Because it's the path of least resistance.
Yes. To take a different path to notice something neutral or positive requires her to manually drag the heavy sled out of that deep groove and force it into fresh, unpacked snow.
That sounds exhausting.
It is exhausting.
Yeah.
The 1-to-1 ratio is her artificial structure. It forces her brain to do the heavy lifting of finding an alternate route until eventually a new neural groove is formed.
Forcing the brain to build a new road. That makes perfect sense.
It does.
And she actually gives us the results of her first trip down that new road.
She does.
She writes about her results from today, the very day she is writing the post.
Yeah.
She says she tried the new rule, and what was her grand, triumphant declaration of positivity?
It was very subtle.
She looked at her morning beverage and stated that the coffee was decent.
Just decent.
And she modestly claims it as a small win, I guess.
The understated nature of that win is precisely what makes it so powerful and authentic. Decent is not a magical hallucination.
Right. She didn't say, this is a miraculous elixir of life.
No, she didn't.
She just said it was decent.
Which proves she is adhering to her rejection of toxic positivity. She found a neutral, acceptable, objective truth. The coffee is adequate. And she chose to vocalize that instead of finding a flaw in the mug or complaining about the temperature.
That's a huge step.
Think about the massive behavioral arc we have just traced.
Yeah.
We started this deep dive with burnt toast that was accused of having a malicious attitude, which triggered a sad little meeting.
We end it with coffee that is calmly deemed decent. That shift represents a monumental neurological pivot.
It really does.
She successfully routed the storm to the brain jar and offered a neutral sky to her partner.
It is the first drop of clean water pushing back against a leaky faucet that has been running for years.
Beautifully put.
It's a small win, but it is a profoundly real one. Let's take a second to look at the entire map of what we've covered today.
It's been quite a journey.
We started by asking how a piece of burnt toast can derail a morning. We explored this anonymous writer's journey from that tense kitchen through her watertight legal defense of her pessimism out on the city streets.
The tinted sunglasses.
Exactly. We looked at the heavy emotional toll taken on her reluctant anchor of a husband. We unpacked the heartbreaking self-sabotage of stomping on the sandcastle to protect herself from the happy dog.
The foreboding joy.
We analyzed the agonizing mirror of a silent handhold. And finally, we arrived at the pragmatic brilliance of the dumb little brain jar and the hard-fought victory of decent coffee. It truly is a masterclass in self-reflection. She maps out the exact architecture of her internal storm, and then, brick by brick, she begins to dismantle it.
Yeah.
Not by denying that the rain exists, but by taking responsibility for where she allows the water to flow.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? I want you to take a hard look at your own daily interactions. Think about the people you live with, the people you work with, the barista who hands you your decent coffee.
A very important question.
Are you letting your internal storms dictate the weather for everyone else in the room? Are you the bad weather?
It's a tough thing to ask yourself.
It is. And if you suspect that you might be, what are you willing to consciously route to your own brain jar tomorrow morning?
And to push that thought one step further as we close, I want to leave you with a final question regarding the mechanics of this strategy.
Okay, what is it?
If we diligently lock all our negative, cynical, petty thoughts away in that dumb little brain jar, just to save our relationships and maintain the peace, what happens in the jar? Do those thoughts eventually ferment in the dark into something much worse, like deep resentment? Or, denied the oxygen of being spoken aloud and validated, do those negative thoughts simply wither away and die?
Wow. Fermentation or withering.
Yes.
Does the spam folder eventually crash the hard drive, or does it auto-delete? That is a heavy, fascinating thought to chew on with your breakfast tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It was a pleasure.
Keep your eyes open for the dumb, happy jump things in your own life. Try to let the sandcastle stand a little longer, and we will see you next time.